estamos transmitiendo desde hermosa 1470M, 96.9 FM. Les habla Lilia Galindo, me acompaña Thomas Elias. Él es un analista político que escribe en aproximadamente 70 periódicos del estado de California, 2 veces a la semana aquí en el Antelope Valley Press, para que pueda leer su columna. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
I am pretty good. How are you, Lilia?
I'm doing fine. Do you know, I was thinking that should be so nice if you tell us about what is happening in the national level with President Biden and the
we should talk about the what happened with the debt ceiling negotiations. And so let's start with a little basic lesson in civics that most people don't understand about the United States of America. This country runs on borrowed money. The government is constantly issuing bonds, and the bonds are basically loans. People buy the bonds, they're lending money to the government. Big companies buy the bonds, big investment companies, they get interest, and that has to be paid. And it's kind of, in a way, it's like a Ponzi scheme, because if they can't borrow more money, they can't pay the interest on the money they borrowed before. And from the borrowed money, we get all kinds of things. Social Security, we get Medicare, we get Medi-Cal, we get we get roads built, we get grants for all kinds of things, for the police, for the sewers, for all kinds of things that the government buys, for bridges and roads and almost you name it. It's mostly all built with borrowed money. And our taxes are only part of not small part, but they're a big part of what the government gets. But if they can't borrow money, then a lot of these payments are going to stop. Sure, some of the payments would still be made. Probably Social Security and Medicare would still be paid. But nobody really knows for sure because it's never been tested. In other words, somebody would have to decide if the debt ceiling were not increased at some certain point. If that ever happens, somebody will have to decide what bills are going to be paid and what bills are not going to be paid. And because it's never happened before, nobody knows who's going to make that decision. Would it be Congress who makes that decision? Would it be the Treasury Secretary? Would it be the President? We don't really know. Nobody knows the answer to that, and no court has ever ruled on it.
Okay. Bueno, vamos a hablar de lo que se trata de la negociación de la deuda. Dice, para lo que sepan algo básico, dice, los Estados Unidos siempre obtienen dinero prestado y emiten bonos, y a través de esos bonos pues le van pagando intereses a los que compran los bonos. Esta es la manera de prestar dinero al gobierno de los Estados Unidos. Y bueno, el gobierno de Estados Unidos tiene que pagar un interés por esos bonos, y si no lo paga, pues entonces ya no puede emitir más bonos. No van a poder obtener dinero. Mucho del dinero que viene de esta deuda, es para pagar el seguro social, medical, Medicare, también para pagar la policía, para hacer algunas obras públicas que requieren dinero. Y dice, y aunque se obtiene dinero de los impuestos, pues no es suficiente lo que se adquiere por los impuestos. Así es que seguramente si no hay esta negociación para autorizar este incremento de la deuda, pues lo que va a suceder es que el seguro social es posible que se pague, pero podría también no pagarse. Seguro social y Medicare seguramente se van a ser pagados, pero no sabemos exactamente. Entonces, dice, el incrementar nunca habíamos tenido este problema de que no se aprobara el incremento del techo de la deuda. Las cuentas se tienen que pagar, y si no se pagan, no va a haber quien preste dinero a alguien que no está pagando. Pero dice, y no se sabe ni siquiera quién va a hacer la decisión de cuáles son las cuentas que no se pagan. Va a ser el Congreso, va a ser el tesorero de los Estados Unidos, la tesorera, va a ser el presidente.
Okay, so nobody really knows then which bills would have been paid and which wouldn't have been paid. Some would have been paid and some would not have been paid if we didn't raise the debt ceiling. Probably the interest on the bonds would have stopped paying, and that would have been what we call default. And then the credit of the United States would have sunk, and the interest that the government would have to pay on new bonds they issue in the future would have gone way, way up because the United States would have been shown to be unreliable. Well, that didn't happen, primarily because there was some negotiation between President Biden and the Democrats and the Republicans led by Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the House. Now, so they settled on a deal where the spending will be held for the next couple of years, will be held pretty flat. Food stamps will go up a little bit, spending on food stamps, but very few other things will go up in the next couple of years. But at least we got a compromise. Some spending restraints in exchange for an extension of the government's credit. That was the deal. And in a moment, after you translate that, we can talk about what this means.
Okay. Dice entonces, las cuentas deben de ser pagadas porque ¿qué sucedería si no se pagan las cuentas? Entonces, lo que va a suceder es que si no se pagan los intereses en los bonos, no se paga, entonces se considera un default. Y lo que pasa en esos casos que el credit score, o sea, lo que nos cuenta como si somos buenos pagadores o no, bajaría. Y cuando eso pasa, pues como nos pasa a nosotros, si fallas pagando la deuda, tus intereses cuando quieras pedir prestado se van hasta arriba. Entonces se logró un compromiso entre los republicanos, el presidente Biden y McCarthy, el líder del Congreso, para aprobar por aproximadamente 2 años esta deuda. Y dice, y lo que se acordó fue que no se gaste más, que esté aplanado el gasto. Se incrementó un poco el dinero para estampillas de comida y pero se están limitando varios otros gastos. Okay. Now
okay, so what does it mean? It means that in both political parties, we do have very extreme politicians. We have people in the Republican Party that want virtually no government spending except on the military. And so you had 71 Republicans, more than 1/3 of the Republicans in Congress voted against this deal. And in fact, more Democrats voted for it than Republicans, even though Republicans are the majority in the House of Representatives. But in real fact, the real majority in the House, where there are 435 members and actually 431 voted on this question, the vote was 314 to 117. Now that means that the 314 who voted for this deal want the United States government to continue to operate and continue to be able to operate and do things for the people of the United States. And there are 117 people in the Congress. That means 46 Democrats and 71 Republicans who care more about their ideology than they do about the future of the United States or the people of the United States. So you have the extreme Republicans like Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and you have the extreme Democrats like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who don't care about the future of the United States. They care only about their own ideals, and they're not willing to compromise. For them, compromise is a dirty word. And so that's one of the meanings here. The great majority of the Congress, almost 3/4, is actually much more moderate than we tend to think they are. They'll vote Republicans and Democrats together if they think it's necessary for the survival of the United States and its people. They may quibble on some details. They may argue about a lot of details, and they do all the time. But they basically have the same foundational idea that the United States must survive. And it must survive in a respectable way, that it's respected internationally, which if the debt ceiling didn't go up, the United States would lose virtually all the respect it has now internationally. Because banks in other countries wouldn't want to invest in United States bonds and treasury bills and so on. It's that simple. So we have here, in a way, the emergence of two new parties. One, the moderates, 314 in the House, and one, the extremists on both sides, where they're both so extreme that they come together in voting no on the same thing, even though they come at it from different directions. So it's almost like a new political system that has come out of this. And the real leader of the House may be Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats, because many more Democrats voted for this than Republicans.
Do you know? Okay, let me translate before I forget. Bueno, dice
Okay.
entonces, ambos partidos políticos han llegado a un acuerdo para sacar al gobierno adelante. 71 personas del Partido Republicano votaron en contra de este acuerdo y hay en la Cámara, en el Congreso, 435, 431 de esos votaron solamente y 314 votaron a favor, 117 votaron en contra. Y dice, bueno, y encontramos republicanos, dice, por esta resolución votaron más demócratas que republicanos. Matt Gaetz y Marjorie Taylor son personas que están en contra y votaron en contra, lo mismo que del otro lado del Partido Demócrata, Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez también votó. Sí, gracias al líder del Congreso se pudieron obtener estos compromisos. Dice, porque esto quiere decir que una 3/4 partes del Congreso se portaron en forma moderada, necesarios, y votaron en esto necesario para que los Estados Unidos pueda protegerse, sobrevivir, porque lo que hubiera sido catastrófico, hubiera perdido todo el respeto de todas las demás naciones, y además nadie hubiera querido comprar bonos ni nada del tesoro. En otros países ya no invertirían en Estados Unidos. Entonces la resolución fue buena. Se nos acabó un minuto. Tom, we have 1 minute. Say something.
Okay, so let me tell you the other thing that's a reality coming out of this. This deal lasts for 2 years until around this same time in the year 2025. That means that next year when he's running for re-election, Joe Biden will not have to think about this. He won't have to be making a deal like this where the real fundament of the mechanics of governing the United States would be in question. So one very tough thing has been taken away from his challenges in the next election.
Bueno, que este acuerdo va a durar por 2 años, lo que quiere decir que el presidente va a correr, va a ser candidato para la próxima elección sin necesitar de preocuparse. Además, so he will win all that people that wants to be in the middle, ¿no? Okay.
He should. You hope he does, but maybe not.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right.
Thank